we'll see how things go. So
In the
relationships,
hot seat.
you're in the hot seat as always. All right. How do friends influence your relationships, or like how should we, or do we let friends influence our relationship?
Okay,
Hey, what's
so
going on?
okay, so you're asking how do friends
Or how do we let friends influence our relationship? Like what are our friends' role in our
so
relationships?
influencing our man-woman
Your
relationship, right?
romantic relationship, right? So how do
Okay.
personal friends, topic tonight,
Okay.
Samantha, is relationships in 2022.
Right, but listen, just like when we had it in person,
You're right.
relationship can be
Friends.
it's an
Friends
onion.
are,
Okay,
yeah,
it's
friendships
not
are
just
relationships. You're
because
absolutely
we
right.
in bed together, like, and that could be a situationship.
Situationships.
Okay,
When was
so
the
we got to
birth
be
of the
clear.
situationship?
Right, and what was yeah. Anyway,
All right, so
okay,
back to the question. So in
right. But
terms
back
of
to the question.
romantic
I'm with you.
relationships,
Yes.
like what role do we allow friends to play in our romantic relationships?
Okay, so I'm going to say personally, but I have witnessed it differently. But
Okay.
okay, personally, how I um okay, so I take friendships and like advice from friends. I weigh it out, like
You mean
uh,
relationship advice from friends?
right.
Okay.
Like you be talking to your girlfriends or whatever, and it's not like I everything is like retained. Because sometimes, like, people have their own baggage. People are jaded on different levels. So, you have to, I feel like you have to be conscious on other people's opinions or suggestions or whatever, because everybody's relationship isn't the same type of box. Like, like it's not a one size fits all. What works for you may not work for me. Yeah, and to be honest, I just feel like I don't really get that much advice. I
Well,
know.
I,
Yeah.
I, I like Shaquin. She commented, "Eat the fish, spit out the bones," and like that's my go-to. It shows you we kind of came from the same school of thought about
Right.
that
She was
concept, and
the
I
only
think
person
that
I ever heard say that.
see, it's not just me.
And show him.
Right. No, and Shaquin. I mean, that's there's other roots. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
That offer like good wisdom and knowledge, and she's tapping in right now.
Gotcha.
But I think for me, it allows me to be in a lot of different rooms. Like because that's my mindset. I don't always have to be in a room that's only serving the things I think are delicious. Like I'm always willing to try something new. Because I always recognize I have the ability to spit out the bones. I don't have to swallow. So I hear you full circle just in terms of recognizing that even within your friendships, their relationships aren't necessarily like your relationship. So, you have to understand how to interpret, someone's perspective when they're offering advice, I think.
Right. Now, what's your answer? Was that your answer?
Is that my
Okay.
answer? I mean, yeah, I think it's funny because for me, I don't know how often I actually go for advice from friends. Like I think I'm not sure if I think about just the friends that I have, how many times like we're talking through very specific situations. If anything, I'll try to maybe offer a context around something that doesn't allow like clarity into what I'm actually thinking, to kind of just get a sense of like a decision they would potentially make in a similar circumstance. But I think I'm very careful about like letting people into my relationship. And also I think us being married is a very different dynamic as well. I think prior to marriage, maybe I could have I don't know. I think I was a person who was generally guarded. So I think to answer the question, how do friends influence my relationships? You know, not very influential per se, you know?
Okay. But can I ask you something? And I know
Yes.
it's not the question, but because I know you listen to a lot of podcasts and talk, I don't even know if you say talk radio, talk whatever it is now. But do you find sometimes like you can take what they're saying or whatever advice they're talking about and pull that in?
I think
Because I think you gotta watch that too. Because you're like, oh, well, they said blah, blah, blah. Well, that ain't this scenario here.
understood. I think we're all influenced, right? Like we are all influenced. You know, we're influenced by books we read, TV shows we watch. And to your point, I think I am a person who also can be influenced by the content that I absorb. And so, I try to be careful about that. And again, I think trying to be able to spit out the bones as readily as possible. And, maybe there are times where I didn't spit out all the bones and, like maybe that's what you're, referring to. But I think for the most part, I try to have for me, I think the concern about how influential friends can be in a relationship is that because they're not in your dynamic, whatever it is that you resolve within that relationship, they're not privy to. And so if you introduce them into something that you have to do the work to resolve and they're not part of the process, they might not have the same resolution on the matter and have a jaded maybe perspective on the other person. And it's something that they may carry because of the fact that they're not in the trenches to figure out, well, what was required from both parties for you all to get out of this, so that's why I would be cautious of how my friends influence relationships.
And before we read Quindal's message,
okay,
Shaquin, before we read the message, I just want to say a lot of times also you need to watch, because how you just mentioned, like the friend isn't there when you're talking this out with your significant other or going through it. But then, I can talk to my friend, like say me and you hypothetically, get in an argument or whatever, very rare.
Argument?
Very rare, I know.
Right, hypothetical.
Right, hypothetical. I call my girlfriend, I'm hype. I may be exaggerating what happened, right? But she's in it, like she's hyped with me. And then I come home and then it's like, you give me the flowers, you're like, ooh, like, whatever, all love, love, love. And then it's like, ooh, done. And then now that the friend is like, well, what just happened? Or it's like, how you running back to him? Like you have those type of friends, like, oh, you, whatever. But it may not have been that big of a deal, but at the moment it was. So, I just feel like you need to watch that stuff. And I feel like maybe, I don't know. But let's read the message. So she says, I almost never let any friends or outside resource comment on my marriage. I'm very protective. 9 out of 10, 11 will seek counsel for our pastor.
Right. I will seek counsel.
Oh, got you. I see 2 eyes. All right. Okay. Anyway.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Sure. I will seek counsel. Got you. But yes. But no, that's true. And just thinking about this question, like I don't think I'm a private person, but I don't share a lot. I
don't think it's helpful. I think there's other things that I get from friends that we can all look at, like that we all have the ability to look at without bias, right? So it's like I have conversations with friends about like stocks and crypto, right? Like we can all look at it, do the homework around it, and come up with conclusions. When it comes to my relationship with you, they can never from the outside look in and assess the same things, so that's why I feel like it's just not as beneficial for me to do that, because I'm putting my friends in a space where ultimately they will fall short, one, because of lack of information, but because they're human, they could harbor actual feelings, that don't dissipate, at the same rate it may with me, because again, I'm in there doing the work. You know, I've received the flowers from you. You know, I've received, you know, the apology. I've gotten the back rub. You know, all those things. All right, next question.
Listen, no, not, okay, next question. But I was just going to also say, you also got to watch, because, like, you know, you may try to get some advice from a married friend, but then you also got to watch, like, you know, if your friend is single or like in a different dynamic kind of thing.
Yeah,
they're all playing a part. But
agreed.
go to
No, like
go
if anything, you're trying to. If anything, you're compelled just to find someone who you believe is thoughtful, right?
Right.
Like I don't necessarily like, just because you're a friend doesn't mean that it's in my interest to go to you with this. So to
Right.
me, it's really about the competency portion of it. So
And
if somebody who I
like,
feel is
leave
just
it.
thoughtful and it's like is willing to take in information and, like, you know, has a response that I believe, like, you know, is it a very biased perspective, that's a way that I'll go. All right, so here's the next question.